Last day of freedom, the twin suns hung low in the alien sky, painting the market streets in red and gold. Crowds moved like restless waves, their voices a mix of shouts, laughter, and sharp bargaining. Lyra walked in the middle of it all, but she did not walk freely. Her wrists were bound by a thin metal cord that hummed with energy. Her uncle held the other end, his thick fingers gripping it tightly. She had not spoken since morning. Every word would only be wasted. She knew where they were going. She knew what this day meant. They stopped near a wide stall covered in dusty fabric. Behind it, 3 alien traders waited. Their skin was dark and rough like stone, their eyes small but sharp. One of them looked at Lyra the way someone looks at a tool, not a person. She's strong enough for the mines, her uncle said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Good worker, young, won't complain. Lyra stared at him. This was the same man who once told her family would always protect their own. But debts were heavy, and she was the easiest to sell. One of the traders walked closer, circling her like a hunter. He grabbed her chin, turning her face side to side. Thin, he said, but healthy. We'll feed her price. Her uncle named a number. The traders laughed, a deep, cruel sound. They argued, voices rising and falling. Numbers tossed like stones. Lyra stood still, her heart pounding in her chest. Her gaze wandered over the market. She wondered if she would ever see it again. Would she even live long enough to care? Then she saw him. A tall figure stood at the edge of the crowd, a human. His skin was sun-browned, his hair dark, his stance calm but alert. Humans were rare here, most kept to their own territories. This one wore a plain jacket, but carried himself like a soldier. His eyes met hers for just a moment. Something in that look was different. Not pity, not ownership, but awareness that traders finally agreed on a price. Her uncle nodded. A heavy credit chip passed from rough hands to greedy ones. It was done. The largest trader stepped forward to claim her. His grip was like iron as he took the cord from her uncle. You belong to Captain Rovell now, he growled. He'll put you to work. As they turned to leave, the human stepped forward. I'll take her. The words were simple, but they cut through the noise of the market like a blade. The traders stopped blinking at him in surprise. Then they laughed again. And who are you, human? You can't afford what we just paid. The human Jace Rowan reached into his pocket and pulled out a credit chip. He held it up so the sunlight caught its surface. This should be enough. The trader's laughter died. The number glowing on the chip was more than double the price they had just agreed on. Why? One of them demanded. She's just another mouth to feed. A problem. We were doing her family a favor. Jace's eyes hardened. I'm not here to discuss your kindness. The lead trader frowned, but took the chip. The cord in his hand hummed as it unlocked, falling loose around Lyra's wrists. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She only stared at this stranger who had just bought her freedom. Or maybe just bought her for himself. Jace didn't touch her. Come on, he said simply, turning away. Lyra hesitated. She glanced back at her uncle, searching for something. An apology. A sign of regret. But he wouldn't even meet her eyes, so she followed the human through the crowd. The sounds of the market seemed to fade behind them. Every step felt heavier, her mind spinning with questions she could not yet ask. When they reached the far edge of the trading district, Jace stopped and looked back at her. You have a name. She narrowed her eyes. Why do you care? Because, he said quietly, if I'm going to keep you safe, I need to know what to call you. She said nothing. Trust was not something she could give away anymore. Jace didn't push. He just started walking again, leading her toward the docking bays where ships waited like silent beasts. But as they approached, Lyra felt something strange. A flicker of hope, It was small, fragile, and easily broken, and she had no idea if following this human would save her or ruin her. The humans claimed the docking bays smelled of metal, oil, and heat. Ships of all shapes rested in their berths, their engines ticking softly as they cooled. Lyra followed Jace Rowan at a careful distance, her eyes darting from one shadow to another. She still didn't trust him. Yes, he had stopped the traders from taking her, but why? No one gave away that much money without wanting something in return. When they reached a small cargo vessel, Jace tapped a code into the side panel. The door hissed open and warm light spilled out. Inside, it didn't look like a trader's ship. It was clean, organized, and strangely quiet. "Go in," he said. Lyra stayed where she was. "You bought me," she said, her voice sharper than she meant. "What are you going to do with me?" Jace tilted his head. "I didn't buy you. I bought your freedom." She laughed, but it was a short, bitter sound. "Freedom? You think I believe that?" "I don't care if you believe it," he said simply. "You can walk away right now if you want." The words surprised her. She glanced back toward the market, but the image of Captain Roval's cold eyes filled her mind. If she went back, there she would not last a day. Slowly, she stepped inside the ship. Jay sealed the door behind her. "Sit," he said, pointing toward a small bench by the wall. He opened a storage unit and pulled out a container of food, soft bread, dried fruit, a small bottle of water. Her stomach twisted with hunger, but she hesitated. "What's the trick?" "No trick," he said. "Eat." She took the food, keeping her eyes on him as she chewed. The bread was warm, the fruit sweet. It had been days since she'd eaten anything that wasn't scraps. Jace didn't ask questions while she ate. He just sat at the ship's controls, checking readings on a glowing screen. Finally, when she was done, she asked, "Why did you do it? There are hundreds like me in that market." "Why me?" His answer was calm. "Because you looked like you hadn't given up yet." The silence stretched between them. Lyra didn't know whether to feel insulted or grateful. Before she could respond, the ship's comm system beeped. Jace pressed a button. A woman's voice came through, quiet but urgent. "Rowan, you've got company. 2 bounty ships just left the market's outer ring. They're following you." Lyra's chest tightened. She didn't need to guess who had sent them. Jace's voice stayed level. "How long until they're in range?" 5 minutes. Less if they push their engines." "Understood. Stay on channel." He shut off the comm and looked at Lyra. "They're coming for you." Her breath caught. "You could hand me over. They'd let you go." "I could," he said, starting the engines, "but I won't." The ship lifted off smoothly, the city below shrinking into a web of lights. The stars opened above them, endless and cold. Lyra moved closer to the controls, watching as red markers blinked on the screen, the bounty ships. "They won't stop," she said quietly. "Then we make sure they can't catch us," Jace replied. The engines roared, and the stars stretched into streaks as the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. But even as they escaped the immediate danger, Lyra knew it was only temporary. She glanced at Jace. He was focused, steady, like a man used to being hunted. "You don't even know me," she said. "Why risk this?" For the first time, a faint smile touched his face. "Because I've seen what they do to people like you, and I don't like bullies." The words were simple, but something in them reached a part of her she thought was already dead. For a moment, she almost believed him. Almost. The journey begins. The hum of the engines was steady now, a low vibration running through the floor. Lyra sat on a small bench near the side of the cockpit, her eyes moving from the blinking control lights to the man at the helm. Jace Rowan didn't speak much. His hands moved over the controls with calm precision, adjusting settings, checking the long-range scanners, It was like he had done this 1,000 times before. The view outside was an endless swirl of light from faster-than-light travel. Lyra had never left her home system before. The stars had always been something far away, unreachable. Now they surrounded her, and instead of feeling free, she felt trapped in an unfamiliar cage. She cleared her throat. "Where are we going?" Jace glanced at her briefly. "A safe place. Somewhere they can't reach you." "Safe," she repeated, her voice flat. "There's no such thing. They always find you." He didn't argue. He only said, "They'll have to get through me first." Lyra turned her gaze to the floor. She wanted to believe him, but she had learned long ago that promises were just words. Hours passed in silence. Finally, Jace stood and moved to a storage compartment. He took out a folded blanket and set it beside her. "You should rest. It'll be a long trip." She didn't thank him, but she pulled the blanket around herself. It was warm, and for a moment she almost relaxed. That moment ended when she heard the faint static of the comm system. Jace's voice dropped to a whisper as he spoke into it. "She's with me." "No, I don't think they've tracked us yet." "Yes, I'll keep her safe. If the bounty lists update, let me know." Lyra's eyes narrowed. Bounty lists. So he did know. About the price on her head, she waited until he was done and the cockpit was quiet again. "You knew," she said. "You knew they'd be after me." Tease didn't deny it. "I saw the way those traders looked at you." "You were worth more than they paid." "Worth more to sell?" she asked sharply. His eyes met hers. "Worth more to save." The words confused her. People didn't save strangers without wanting something back. She couldn't see what he wanted yet, and that made her uneasy. When the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, she stood and moved toward the window. A wide stretch of space opened before them, filled with the pale light of a nearby star. Small asteroids drifted lazily, and a dark, rocky moon spun slowly in the distance. "This isn't a planet," she said. "Not yet," Jace replied, steering the ship toward the moon. "There's an outpost here, off the trade maps. You'll be safe there for a while." Something in his tone made her ask, "For a while?" He didn't answer directly. Places like this don't stay secret forever. The outpost came in two. View a cluster of metal structures half buried in the moon's surface. Faint lights glowed along its edges. As they approached, a warning alarm chimed. Jace checked the screen and his jaw tightened. "What is it?" Lyra asked. He didn't look at her. "A ship. No transponder signal. Could be nothing. Could be trouble." Her stomach turned cold. She backed away from the cockpit window, watching the approaching blip on the scanner. Jace adjusted the ship's angle, hiding their approach behind a cluster of asteroids. "If it's trouble, stay out of sight. Understand?" Lyra nodded, gripping the edge of the bench. Minutes passed like hours. The scanner blip drifted, then moved away from the outposts. Location, Jace exhaled slowly. "Just a freighter. We're clear." They landed without further alarms. The docking clamps hissed, locking the ship in place. Jace stood, grabbing a small pack from the wall. "Come on. I want you inside before anyone else spots us." Lyra followed him down the ramp, her boots crunching on the dusty moon surface. The air was thin, the sky a deep black scattered with cold stars. Inside the outpost, the halls were dim and quiet. The air smelled faintly of metal and recycled oxygen. A tall woman with short silver hair met them at the entrance. She and Jace exchanged a brief nod. "This her?" the woman asked. "This is Lyra," Jace confirmed. The woman's gaze softened slightly. "You're safe here, for now." Lyra wanted to believe that. But in the back of her mind, she could still feel the cold eyes of Captain Rovell, somewhere out there. He was already planning how to get her back, and she knew, safe or not. This journey was far from over. The past she can't escape. The outpost's living quarters were small, with narrow corridors and metal walls that hummed softly from hidden machinery. Lyra sat on the edge of a thin bed in a room barely big enough to hold it. There was a single light overhead, casting a pale glow. She had been here for 2 days, and though no one had treated her badly, she couldn't relax. The outpost was quiet, too quiet, like the air before a storm. Jace Rowan came by every few hours, checking in but never pushing her to talk. Tonight, though, when he stepped into her room, he didn't stand near the door like usual. He sat in the chair beside her bed. "We need to talk," he said. Her eyes narrowed. "About what?" "Why they're after you." She turned away. "I told you before." "Ah, I was sold to pay my family's debts." "That's part of it," he said calmly, "but not the whole truth." She didn't answer at first. Part of her wanted to stay silent forever, as if not speaking would make it less real. But when she looked at him, she saw no judgment, only patience. "They didn't sell me just for money," she said finally, her voice low. "They sold me to Captain Rovell because he wanted me. He knew what I could do." Jace leaned forward slightly. "What can you do?" She hesitated. "I can read systems, machines. I can see the way they're put together, even if I've never seen them before. I can tell what's broken and how to fix it." "A mechanic?" Jace asked. "More than that," she said, shaking her head. "I don't. Just understand them. I feel them. When I touch a console or an engine, I can see the connections in my head. Captain Rovell wanted me for his mining rigs. I could keep them running without parts, without manuals. And if I refused," her voice trailed off. Jace's jaw tightened. "That's why they're hunting you." "They'll never stop," she whispered. "Even if we run to the edge of the galaxy." Before he could respond, a sudden alarm blared through the outpost. Red lights flashed along the ceiling. Jace stood instantly, pressing a finger to the small earpiece in his ear. "What is it?" he demanded. A voice crackled back through the comm. "Unidentified ship just dropped out of FTL. No signal, no contact. It's heading straight for us." Lyra's chest tightened. "It's him," she said without thinking. Jace grabbed his sidearm from the holster at his belt. "Stay in this room. Don't move." But as he started toward the door, she stood quickly. "You can't fight him alone. If it's Rovell, he'll bring a crew." "I'm not alone," Jace said. "This outpost has defenses." Her eyes locked. "On his, they're not enough. I've seen his ships. He'll find a way through." The alarms kept wailing as heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. The silver-haired woman from before appeared in the doorway, her expression tense. "Rowan, we need you at the command deck," she said. "The ship's holding position just out of weapons range. Feels like they're waiting for something." Jace nodded. "Keep her safe," he told the woman. But as soon as he left, Lyra's mind began racing. If it really was Rovell, hiding in this room wouldn't save her. He knew she was here. She looked at the wall panel beside the bed. An access port for the outpost's internal systems. Without thinking, she pulled the cover off. The moment her fingers touched the cables inside, her mind filled with images. Power grids, turret controls, shield generators. She could see where the systems were weak. She could make them stronger. Her hands moved quickly, rerouting power from unused storage wings to the outer shields. She adjusted the turret targeting systems, making them faster, more precise. By the time Jace returned, breathing hard, she had closed the panel and stepped back. "What did you do?" he asked, glancing at the wall. "Gave you a better chance," she said simply. He didn't ask how. He just gave her a short nod. "Good, because they're moving in." Somewhere outside, the deep thud of the outpost's guns echoed through the walls. Lyra's heart pounded. She didn't know if they could win, but for the first time. She wasn't just a prisoner waiting for her fate. She was part of the fight. The rescue under fire, the first impact, shook the walls. Dust fell from the ceiling vents, and the floor trembled under Lyra's boots. Somewhere deep in the outpost, metal groaned as the shields absorbed another blast. Jace's voice was steady but sharp. "They've started their attack. Stay close." Lyra followed him into the narrow hallway leading to the command deck. The silver-haired woman, Commander Varen, was already there, standing before a glowing table covered with tactical displays. "They've got one main ship and 2 escorts," Varen reported. "Their shields are strong, but they're not moving in fast. Feels like they're testing us." "It's Rovell," Lyra said from the doorway. "He'll take his time. He likes to make people afraid before he moves in." Varen gave her a sharp look. "You're certain?" "I know him," Lyra said simply. Jace studied the display. "If they break through the shields, we won't hold them long. We need to keep them outside weapons range." Another blast hit the shields harder. This time, the power readings dipped, then climbed again, thanks to the changes Lyra had made earlier. Jace noticed it too. "That boost you gave us is buying time. Can you give us more?" She hesitated. "Maybe, but I'll need direct access to the main systems that's in the generator room." Varen frowned. "That's too close to the outer wall. If they breach, you'll be cut off." "She'll have me with her," Jace said firmly. Within minutes, they were racing down the metal corridors toward the generator room. The air was hot here, thick with the smell of heated metal and humming power conduits. Lyra dropped to her knees beside the main console, pulling off the panel. Her fingers brushed the cables, and the familiar rush filled her mind. A vision of the outpost's power network. "They've been targeting the same shield quadrant," she said quickly. "If I shift power to reinforce it, the shields will hold twice as long." "Do it," Jace said, keeping his weapon ready and his eyes on the door. Her hands moved fast, rerouting currents, linking backup systems into the shield grid. Sparks leaped from one cable, but she didn't flinch. The floor shook again. And this time, a loud crash echoed from somewhere above. "That was the east turret," Jace muttered. "They're getting closer." "Done," Lyra said, slamming the panel back in place. "We need to get to the west side. I can use the turrets there to punch a hole in their shield." Jace didn't argue. They ran, the alarms screaming. Overhead, when they reached the turret control station, the small crew inside looked up in surprise. Lyra pushed past them to the targeting console. The screen showed Rovell's ship, its massive hull glowing faintly with energy. "He's keeping his main ship out of range," Lyra muttered. "Smart, but not smart enough." Her fingers danced over the controls, locking the turrets on the care. Smaller escorts shipped to the left. "We take out his escorts, he has to move in closer." The turrets roared to life. Through the viewport, streaks of plasma fire lit the black sky. The escort ship tried to evade, but Lyra's adjustments made the targeting too fast. Within seconds, one of its engines exploded in a burst of light. A cheer went up from the crew, but Jace didn't smile. "They'll hit back harder now." He was right. The second escort swung in close, unleashing a barrage that shook the entire outpost. A warning light flashed red on the console. The outer wall had been breached in one section. "We've got borders," someone shouted over the com.jac single quotes as grip on his weapon tightened. "Stay here," he told Lyra. "No," she said firmly. "If they get inside, they'll head straight for me. I'm not hiding." Before he could answer, the door to the control room hissed open. A tall figure in dark armor stepped inside, Captain Rovell himself. His cold eyes locked on Lyra instantly. "Well," Rovell said, his voice like ice, "you've cost me time and ships, girl. But now, you're coming with me. Jace stepped between them, raising his weapon. She's not going anywhere. Roval smiled faintly. Then you'll die first. The room erupted into chaos. Crew members dove for cover as blaster fire filled the air. Lyra dropped to the floor, crawling toward the emergency panel near the wall. Her fingers found the cable, and once again the vision came. Not of the outpost this time, but of the turret systems outside. She sent a surge of power to the west battery. The roar outside shook the walls as a full volley of plasma slammed into Rovel's remaining escort ship, tearing it apart. The sudden loss made Rovel hesitate, and in that moment, Jace fired. The shot hit Rovel's shoulder, forcing him back toward the door. "We're not done," Rovel growled before retreating with 2 armored guards. The door sealed behind them, but the alarms kept blaring. The fight was far from over. Lyra looked at Jace, her chest heaving. He won't stop. Jace nodded grimly. Then neither will we. Trust earned in blood, the control room was filled with the smell of scorched metal and the faint sting of smoke. The alarms had finally gone silent, but the air still vibrated with the memory of the battle. Lyra stood leaning against the console, her hands trembling. She wasn't sure if it was from fear, exhaustion, or the adrenaline still running through her veins. Across the room, Jace was speaking into his com, giving short, clipped updates to Commander Varen. "They've pulled back," Jace said finally, turning toward her. For now, she repeated, her voice flat. "That means he'll be back." "Yes," Jace said. He didn't sugarcoat it. A medic entered the room, carrying a small kit. "Sit," she ordered Jace. "I'm fine," he replied. "You're bleeding," the medic said sharply. Lyra's gaze dropped to his arm. She hadn't noticed it before, but a deep burn mark cut across his sleeve. The fabric blackened and wet with blood. "You should have said something," Lyra said, frowning. JCE shrugged. "Didn't have time." The medic cleaned the wound, wrapping it in white bandages. Lyra stood nearby, watching in silence. She thought of the moment in the battle when Roval had aimed at her, and Jace had stepped into the line of fire without hesitation. When the medic left, Jace sat on the edge of the console, wincing slightly. "You did good back there," he said. "Without you, the outpost would have fallen." Lyra shook her head. "Without you, I'd already be back in chains." They looked at each other for a moment, the weight of the fight hanging between them. "You still don't trust me?" Jace said quietly. Lyra didn't answer right away. "Trust isn't something I give easily, but," she hesitated. "You took a hit for me. That means something." Jace gave a faint smile. "I meant it when I said I don't like bullies." Commander Varen entered then, her face drawn and serious. "We've got a problem. Our long-range sensors just picked up another jump signature. It's bigger this time." Roval called for reinforcements. "How long?" Jace asked. "An hour? Maybe less." Lyra felt the small flicker of relief she had gained vanish instantly. "We can't fight another battle like that," she said. "We won't," Jace replied. "We're not staying." Varen raised an eyebrow. "Where will you go?" "Somewhere he won't expect," Jace said. Lyra frowned. "And where's that?" Jace's eyes met hers. "The human colonies." Her stomach tightened. "Humans don't like outsiders. I've heard the stories." "They don't like strangers," Jace corrected. "But you won't be a stranger. You'll be with me." Varen crossed her arms. "It's risky, but staying here is worse." Jace pushed himself up, ignoring the pain in his arm. "We'll need supplies and a quiet exit." "I'll have my crew prepare what you need," Varen said, before leaving them alone again. When the door closed, Lyra stepped closer. "If we go to human space, will he still follow?" "Yes," Jace admitted. "But there, the rules are different. He can't just walk in with guns and take you. He'd have to risk more than he's willing to lose. Lyra studied his face. She still didn't know why he was risking so much for her, but a strange thought began to form. Maybe she didn't need to know right now. Maybe she could just let herself trust him, even if only a little, later. As they walked through the dim corridors toward the docking bay, they passed outpost workers repairing walls, cleaning debris, and reactivating damaged systems. Many nodded to Lyra with quiet respect. Word of what she had done in the battle had spread. When they reached the ship, she paused at the ramp. "Back in the market," she said slowly. "I thought you were just another buyer. I thought you'd use me like they would." Jace turned, his expression calm. "I don't own you, Lyra. You're free to leave any time." She shook her head. "No, I think I want to stay. At least until this is over." His smile was brief but genuine. "Then let's make sure it ends on our terms." The ship's engines roared to life. As they lifted off, the outpost shrank behind them, a small cluster of light in the endless dark. Ahead, the stars stretched on forever. Somewhere out there, Roval's reinforcements were coming. Somewhere beyond that, human space waited dangerous, unfamiliar, but maybe, just maybe, a place where she could finally be safe, and for the first time in a long time. Lyra realized she didn't feel entirely alone. The end that became a beginning. The journey to human space was tense and silent. Lyra spent most of the time in the co-pilot's seat, watching the navigation screen. Jace kept the ship on a winding route, making sudden jumps to throw off anyone tracking them. But no matter how many times the stars stretched and shifted, Lyra could still feel Roval out there. He was a shadow behind them, waiting for his moment. 2 days into the trip, the scanners lit up with a red warning. "Contact," Jace said, his voice low. "One ship. It's him." The reading was unmistakable. Captain Roval's personal vessel, faster than theirs and built for combat. "He must have tracked our last jump," Lyra said. "He's not going to follow us into human territory," Jace replied, adjusting the controls. "Too dangerous. They'll try to stop us here while we're still in neutral space." The comm system crackled to life, and Roval's voice filled the cabin. "Give her to me, Rowan, and I'll let you live." Jace didn't even look at the speaker. Not happening. There was a pause, then a cold laugh. "Then die with her." The channel went dead, and Roval's ship accelerated. "Strap in," Jace said. The battle began almost instantly. First volleys slammed into their rear shields, making the ship shudder. Jace threw them into a tight roll, firing back with their smaller guns. Plasma bolts lit up the darkness, flashes of blue and orange cutting across the void. "He's faster," Lyra shouted. "But not smarter," Jace said. Teeth clenched. He dived toward a nearby asteroid field, weaving between spinning rocks the size of buildings. Roval followed, his ship's heavier frame struggling to match the tight turns. "Shields." At 40%, Lyra called out from the console. "Divert auxiliary power to the rear," Jace ordered. She hesitated. "If I do that, our weapons do it." Her fingers flew over the controls, rerouting power just as another blast hit. The shields flared, holding by a thread. Jace spotted a narrow gap between two massive asteroids, both tumbling toward each other in slow, crushing motion. "Hang on," he said, steering straight for it. Lyra's eyes widened. "We won't fit." "We will," Jace said, and they did, barely. The rocks collided behind them with a deafening crack that sent shards spinning in every direction. One massive fragment slammed into Roval's ship, tearing through its side. "He's still coming," Lyra said, checking the sensors. Jace's jaw tightened. "Then we finish it." Lyra's gaze fell to the weapon systems. "If I can overload the starboard turret, I can push its output past maximum. One shot could punch through his core." That'll burn out the gun, Jace said. It'll burn him out too. Jace gave a sharp nod. Do it. Lyra dove into the controls, fingers moving with precision. She rerouted every scrap of spare energy to the turret, feeling the system strain under the pressure. The hum of the gun grew louder, vibrating through the hull. Locked, she said. Jace swung the ship around, lining up the shot. Roval's vessel loomed ahead, its damaged side exposed. Fire. The blast tore through the darkness, a single, blinding spear of light. It hit Roval's ship dead center, punching through its shield and ripping into its engine core. For a second, nothing happened. Then the entire vessel erupted in a fireball that lit up the asteroid field. The shockwave rattled their ship. But when it cleared, Roval's vessel was nothing but drifting fragments. Lyra stared at the view, her chest heaving. It's over, for now, Jace said. But he won't be the last. She turned to him, confused. Then why? Why risk everything for me? He looked at her for a long moment. Because I was sold once too. Not by family, but by people I trusted. Someone gave me a chance to fight back. Now I'm doing the same. For you, Lyra didn't know what to say. For the first time in years, she felt something like belonging. Fragile. But real doubts later, they crossed into human space. A patrol ship scanned them, then waved them through. Ahead lay a cluster of bright colonies, their lights shining like stars against the dark dot. As they approached, Jace spoke again. You don't have to stay with me, Lyra. You're free to go anywhere. She shook her head, a small smile touching her lips. I think I'd like to stay, for now. He smiled back, and the two of them looked out at the growing lights of the colony. For Lyra, it wasn't just the end of running. It was the beginning of something she thought she'd never have again, a life worth living. And for Jace, it was a reminder of why humanity's strength wasn't just in ships or weapons, but in the choices they made to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The stars stretched out before them, endless and waiting. Their fight wasn't over, but now they would face it together.